All right, a very good morning to you. It's good to see you on this Wednesday. It's not Tuesday, it's Wednesday. I hope that you're well and ready to face the day. Welcome to the show. The show is Your World. My name is Winnie Lubembe, and today our focus of conversation is on the nuclear power for socio-economic development. So we want to do a little bit of physics today. So for those of you who did not like physics, listen, you want to sit until the end of the conversation because it's going to be a very interesting show and very eye-opening if you ask me, because I was reading through, I was like, hey, okay, there's really a lot, all right? And as we all know that as economies grow, challenges of meeting electricity demand continue to rise. And this, coupled with the pressure to reducing reliance on imported energy while lowering carbon dioxide emissions, leave many emerging nations with no alternative but to consider nuclear energy as a key component of their economic development and energy security strategies. But the question is, how exactly does nuclear energy work and how impactful is it in the socio-economic development? Like I said, you want to stick around until the end of the show to understand that and much more, because whether we realize it or not, we have benefited from this. And of course, we'll take you through some of the areas and how this is impactful, again, like we said, on social economic development. So to help us with that conversation, we have Mr. Justus Wabuyabo, who is the Acting Chief Executive Officer, Nuclear Power and Energy Agency, or if you like, NUPEA. So good to have you this morning. How are you doing?
I'm okay, Winnie, and thanks for having me.
And like I said, today we're going to go back to class and do a little bit of physics.
Yeah.
Because it impacts our lives in one way or the other, whether we realize it or not.
Yes.
And I know for the majority of Kenyans now, our biggest issue has been electricity, right?
Yes,
constant blackouts here and there. But with nuclear energy, someone said, listen, you can actually go up to 2 or 5 years with no electricity interruption.
Exactly.
We all want that. Like,
Yes,
why don't we have that
yes.
already?
We
We should have that, all right?
Yes,
But let's just go back to the basics so that we have a better understanding as far as nuclear energy and how that is beneficial to us. But let's just understand, first of all, nuclear energy. What exactly are we talking about?
Thank you, Winnie. But Winnie, I would like not to scare our viewers. I'm actually a lawyer and I'm not a scientist, so
okay.
we are not really going to talk about.
We're not going to go deep into the same.
And by the way, I think when we were in school, we used to fear physics, but
a lot.
But actually, physics is very simple. It's normal things that happen every day.
Yeah.
So I think that fear is what we really need to remove from the people's mind, because nuclear science is just a science like any other.
Yeah.
By the time we'll be through, you actually understand that when you generate electricity from hydro and generating electricity from nuclear, the difference is really very small.
Okay.
But 80% of the technology of that process is actually common.
Yeah.
So ideally, we should not, when we listen to the word nuclear, we should not really be scared. It's really
you know, actually, when you talk about nuclear, it's the first thing that always comes to mind is
Yes.
not the good.
I know.
So it can be scary for people.
And you're not alone.
Yes.
Many people, you meet professors and, lawyers, very senior lawyers, some doctors. When they hear the word nuclear, I think the first thing that comes to mind is Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah.
But actually, nuclear is present in everyday life.
That's true.
And it's applicable in a lot of spheres. Actually, they say that there's nuclear in a banana, a banana.
Yes. Every single day. Okay.
Yeah. So nuclear is present in our everyday life.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure lots of people will be curious then to understand how we can generate, power or electricity from the same. And I know, like you said, yes, we're not going to go into details of the house, but just to really understand how different is it, because now there are various forms, of energy, or sources, rather, of electricity. We have, like the fossils, we have the hydro, we have windmills, right? But now when we talk about nuclear, it's not a common concept for so many people to understand. So majority of them will be like, so then how is that different from what we're experiencing or what we have now? Because it's only South Africa that has a nuclear plant in Africa,
so
as
far,
compared to so far. But we're on track for us. Okay.
Actually, in Africa, South Africa are the first ones who have the first nuclear power plant. Egypt is very advanced. I think Egypt should be commissioning their plant not in the far future, in a not so far future. There are many other African countries that are actually looking at nuclear as an option. We have our neighbors, Uganda, Rwanda, Nigeria, Ghana, and many other African countries are actually considering nuclear because actually nuclear is the future. You will appreciate that all these other sources which have been available, some of them are getting depleted. And also the technology that has been used is not clean technology. For example, fossil fuels are one of the worst polluters of the environment. They have a lot of carbon emissions. And therefore, the world is looking to look for alternative sources of energy that are green and renewable and sustainable as well. Yes.
And of course we'll talk about how this is beneficial, especially to the environment, but also, you know, to the surrounding communities as well. Because one of the things is usually a safety issue, both to the environment but to the people as well. Because we've seen in other countries where, in case of any disasters, you know, some countries have suffered from the same. But going back to nuclear energy, and it's beneficial, and of course, like you said, this is the future, right? So NUPEA has been mandated. We are clearly on the way towards that. Our commissioning should be in 2036 or 37?
2034. It was initially 2036, but because of certain developments that are emerging, we are trying to see whether we could bring that date closer to 2034, so that we are able to address our energy needs that are really growing day by day.
Are we on track?
We are on track.
Okay.
If I take you back a little bit, the idea of Kenya going nuclear goes back to 2010. During the administration of the late President Mwai Kibaki. In that year, the National Economic and Social Council, which had been formed by the President, was looking at how the country is going to develop in the coming years. And they're the ones who started thinking about issues like Vision 2030 and so forth. And they realized that some of as the country develops, there are going to be growing needs for energy. And therefore, they recommended that we should start considering bringing nuclear into our energy mix. And therefore, in that year, the decision was made to actually incorporate nuclear as part of our energy sources. And from that point, we started working towards seeing how the country can move forward. And the President, through an executive order, formed the nuclear power project committee, which was under the Ministry of Energy, and they started working towards that initiative. But it was actually then decided that in order for this process to go on, it was advisable for the government to form an independent parastatal. And it is in the year 2012 that Kenya Nuclear Electricity Board was formed, which now was moved away from the ministry and became independent. It continued doing the work in preparing the country for that process. And one of the things that they did at that point was to do a feasibility study for the nuclear power program. After that, they developed the board developed a strategic plan, a 15-year strategic plan. As you will know, many strategic plans will actually be for 5 years. Many of the government strategic plans will be 5 years. But this is a strategic plan that was specific for the nuclear power program. Because when you're thinking about nuclear power program, you need to think long term. So you have to plan long term, and that strategic plan is separate from the organization's strategic plan because it's focusing on the nuclear power program itself. What are the activities? What are the objectives and everything that you need to do to attain the commission of the nuclear power program. So after that, the strategic plan was launched. Other activities were engaged in because there are a number of things that a country really needs to do in preparation for the nuclear power program. We started planning to see how we can have appropriate personnel that will be available to work in that area and so forth, thinking many other things. How are we going to finance the nuclear power program?
Yeah.
What are the issues that are involved in it? Are our people aware of the program? So we have to deal with things like stakeholder engagement and getting the public to participate. We have to really think also about nuclear safety and security, and also all the other issues that, according to international law or the international legal framework that is actually set by the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is an agency of the UN that deals with nuclear issues. It has actually set certain issues that a country needs to consider. They're actually called infrastructure issues, and there are 19. So you have to all think about all those issues as you plan that activity. Then along the way, further considerations were made, and it was thought that it would make more sense if this nuclear body, the National Nuclear Body, was actually formulated in an act of parliament, so that it is formalized and its existence is actually appreciated in law. So in 2019, when the Energy Act was enacted, Kenya Nuclear Electricity Board was actually transformed from a board, which is created by an executive order, into now Nuclear Power and Energy Agency, being created now by an act of parliament. So I think that is, in a nutshell, how the NUPEA has actually come to be and discharging its mandate.
All right. And of course, then to really understand how important NUPEA is, even as we prepare for, like you said, for the commissioning, because initially it was in 2037 and then we moved to 2036, but now it's a good thing to hear that you're projecting to see that we can have that by 2034, right? Okay, so then what exactly happens in terms of what NUPEA is involved in, just to make sure that this project comes to life? Because it's one thing to have an idea, but it's another thing to see up to the implementation of the same. And again, like you said, it's not an easy thing. It has to take time. There has to be citations that, in place. You have to identify a place or an environment that is safe to have the nuclear plant. So it takes a long time. Make sure that you have the right people who are skilled for the same. So what exactly is NUPEA's mandate, just to make sure that, all those things come to place?
Thank you, Winnie. As I mentioned, since 2010, there are those activities that we have been doing. But in 2019, when the Energy Act was created, NUPEA was now given specific mandate. And the primary mandate was to guide the country in developing the necessary infrastructure to support the nuclear power program.
What infrastructure is needed to make sure that this happens?
The infrastructure we're talking about is a whole, some of the things I've mentioned. First, having human capital that will be useful in that area. Having the appropriate infrastructure, like studying our grid to ensure that it's able to support the power that will be generated from nuclear power. Thinking about how we'll fund and finance the nuclear power program. Thinking about what procedure we will use to onboard the contractor that will be able to develop for us the nuclear power plant. As you'll appreciate that this technology is likely going to be foreign and actually most likely coming out of Africa. So we have to think about which people we're going to engage to come and help us in that regard. And as you think about the nuclear power program, you also need to think about the issues that might arise.
That's true.
And as I mentioned to you, we then have this idea of having stakeholder engagement and public participation. Because of the nature of our nuclear power program, you must, of necessity, involve the whole of the Kenyan people. Because, as you mentioned, the fears that are there.
There are,
you have to bring those concerns on the table and discuss with the whole population and allay those fears. And that we've actually done, because as we were undertaking a project that is known as Strategic Environmental and Social Assessment exercise, we actually went around the country discussing with Kenyans and telling them that this is what our government is thinking about introducing this, and getting their views. And there's a conversation that actually is required to be to be had before you even
Anything
think about the nuclear power program,
before you even start the
as you
project.
implement the nuclear power program, and even when we'll get to a point, if we are to decommission the nuclear power program, it's a conversation that we must have throughout.
Yeah.
And therefore, those are some of the things that we need to be doing.
And just from the public, what are some of the concerns that people have raised, if they have? And because, again, like we said, not so many people really understand how this works, right? Because we're so used to this other form. But then again, before, like he said, before you commission, before anything, you have to have all this, engagement from the stakeholders to the people, because at the end of the day, this is something that is meant to serve the people, right?
Yes.
So what are some of these concerns that maybe people have raised, and how do you then just make sure that these fears are erased?
The two biggest concerns that have emerged relate to the issues of nuclear security and nuclear safety.
Okay.
And this goes back to what you mentioned earlier, that whenever people think about nuclear, they think about the bomb.
Yes.
They think about the disaster in Fukushima and Chernobyl. Those are the first things that come, and they really cause people to really tense. And therefore, we are trying to say that a nuclear power program is a highly regulated environment.
Okay.
As I mentioned, it's regulated by the IAEA and international law. And therefore, before you even start the nuclear power program, there are certain things that a country is required to put in place. There are important treaties, international treaties, that talk to the issue of nuclear security, that talk to issues of safeguards. We have 4 specific conventions. We have, for example, the Convention on Nuclear Security, Convention on Early Notification in the event of a nuclear accident, Convention on Assistance in the event of nuclear accident, and with the 4th important convention, we have the Joint Convention on the Safety of Spent Fuel Management and on the Safety of Radioactive Waste Management. Those conventions address a lot of the issues that are of concern to the citizens. And beyond that, not only having the international legal framework in place, under the IAEA requirements, is that a country must also develop national laws that will be able to address all these issues, so that whenever an issue arises, then we are able to address it. And I'll hasten to say that we must remember that a nuclear power program is actually designed to work and not to fail.
Okay.
And therefore, some of the accidents that have happened historically, many of them can be explained. Because if you take, for example, like the Fukushima accident, that was something that had not been seen, because it was a result of the tsunami in 2011. Because when when the plant was developed, no one had ever imagined that waters could breach to that extent and cause this kind of thing. And it's actually said that it is not the plant that failed, but that water coming in and clogging the system is
because something that is unpredictable.
Unpredictable. And because of that, the world has learned from those dangers, and the technology that is being applied is thinking beyond what. Beyond that, even that kind of incident,
from that accident,
and therefore it's very unlikely that we may have such thing happening again. And when you come to issues of nuclear security, and again the international legal regime and the national legal regime that's supposed to be created is supposed to be such that every ounce of nuclear material that is being used is actually accounted for. We have what is called a state system of accounting for the nuclear material. So if you're going to acquire any nuclear material, you must at any point be able to say what time you acquired it, at what you've used it, and where it is, so that we are able to monitor where nuclear material is at any point. So that it is very unlikely that that material can land in wrong
fall
hands.
in the wrong hands.
Yeah,
That's
yes.
true. You have
Yeah.
to take all the necessary precautions
Yes.
just to make sure that what is meant for is exactly what is going to happen and not the other way around.
Exactly.
And that said, then that means there has to be an ideal place to set up a nuclear plant.
Yeah.
And of course, several favoring conditions
Yes.
have to be met. And one of the things that I was reading is it has to be near a large water body. There are
Yeah.
several considerations.
Yes.
Here in the country was the coastal Turkana.
Yes.
Was it in Rift Valley or around
Nyanza,
Nyanza,
Lake
yes, the
Victoria.
Nyanza
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
Nyanza region.
Yeah.
So near a large water body.
Yes, yeah.
But aside from that, also geographical aspect is important
Yes,
for the same.
yes.
Do you want to take us through very quickly, especially for geographical? Because I was saying again, Rift Valley, we know
Yes,
how it
yes,
is, so it's
yes,
not
yeah.
favorable
Yes.
for the same.
Yeah, thanks, Winnie. As you said, the first thing we did is we took a global view of the country, a helicopter view of the country. And the first thing, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
we needed a water body.
Yeah.
So Lake Turkana, Lake Victoria, Tana River, and then the coast. And then we did preliminary studies in all these areas, and we have a criteria that is applied.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that one has to
You
look
have
at.
to consider. Yeah.
You have to look at the first is the water body, very necessary. You have to look at the ground, stability of the ground. You know, the other things we look at is population, because you also don't want to
Yes,
do a
it has
project
been a
that
place
is
that's
going
highly
to
yes.
And so forth and so forth.
Yeah.
And therefore, when we did these studies, which are actually preliminary, we excluded many of excluded the Lake Turkana because of, as you mentioned, the Rift Valley and the falls,
just the film
and
it
then
is from, yeah.
even Lake Victoria is also close to the Rift Valley,
Yeah.
and therefore the coastal region was quite apt,
Favorable.
favorable. But beyond that, we are going to carry out what is called detailed site characterization. We are going to do more scientific studies to actually determine the best site. There are a lot of criteria which the experts and the engineers will have to look at before they say, yes, this is now
Come
the
up with a
place
definitive-
where we're going to
Yes.
do the plant. And therefore, those things, we must ensure that we deal with each and every aspect of it to detail, so that we are sure that
true.
where we locate the nuclear power plant is a place that can support it.
And it's ideal. It's true,
It's
because
ideal,
like we
yes.
said, one of the things, one of the major concerns is usually safety and security of the same. So if that is covered,
Yes.
then all these other areas is
Exactly.
pretty much.
Exactly.
It was very fascinating to really read about how this comes about before you, because it has to go through different phases
Yes.
before you settle on. But
Yeah.
even from the same, of course, this has huge impact when we're talking about the social economic development, right?
Yes.
Of a country, and there's several areas that this is highly beneficial. And one of the areas is we have agriculture, we have health, and medicine, we have food,
Yes.
and all these other areas. And especially now that we're dealing with climate change, it's ravaging, across the globe. And if we can have something that will help sort of alleviate that, we talked about, carbon, which is a huge thing, and also food security. Kenya, again, we're just coming off of a drought, longest 40 years, in the making. So this will be very beneficial. So it'll be very interesting to hear how then nuclear energy, comes to solve some of these issues, and especially we're talking about health as well. But can we do that after the break?
Oh.
Sure. Okay. So if you have any question as far as nuclear, power, nuclear energy, and how this, comes into play, and how this will impact our day-to-day living, then feel free to engage with us on our socials at NTV Kenya, both at Facebook and on Twitter. And if you want to call in live and ask your question, feel free to do so. Our lines are officially open. But all that is coming up after the break. Stay with us.
Kenya Utalii College is a premier UNWTO accredited hospitality and tourism training institution and a gateway to international careers. Apply now for competency-based diploma or certificate courses or short tailor-made courses.
Where else would you be on a Saturday morning? Scene Republic brings you your favorite celebrities in studio as well as serving you all the tea on Matters Entertainment.
What is the reason you do not have your own piece of mind?
We also get to visit your area code. That's why we have amazing segments pale kwenye the hangout. And also on Bazenga, we bring you the best of the best on different areas of expertise.
And guys, nothing beats real good music. Grooved on with top dancers, served real hot by me, DJ Rickmo, the Afro King himself.
So make sure you catch us every Saturday
From 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Come to the dance floor, babe.
The Nuclear Power and Energy Agency NUPEA is a state corporation under the Ministry of Energy mandated with the development of nuclear power program for electricity generation in Kenya, carrying out research and development of energy technologies and capacity building for the energy sector. To this end, NUPEA coordinates all relevant nuclear infrastructure in the country. For more information, log on to our website and follow us on our social media handles.
With Glovo unaweza order chochote na ukipata una celebrate na body yako yote. Because your tasty grilled chicken ikifika, weekend inaanza. Ingredients are your favorite recipe just in time. Na wakati keki inafika ndio sherehe inaanza. Because to get anything on Glovo deserves a dance. Download the app, order anything unataka na we track minute by minute mpaka ikufikie. Glovo, order anything, we deliver in minutes.
Centum Real Estate offers you an opportunity to own a home at the Two Rivers Development, Mzizi Court Residence. Talk to us today on 0703 262626 or text 2 Rivers to 22365.
All right, welcome back. Glad you are still with us. 30 minutes past the hour, time flies, and we're talking about something that honestly all of us should know about, and that is on nuclear power or nuclear energy and how that is impactful on our day-to-day life. We're talking about economies, development in different aspects, and one of the things that we said is it covers across. We're talking about agriculture, health, medicine, food security, as well as industrialization, even when we're talking about water or marine, right? And of course, to help us with that conversation today is Mr. Justus Wabuyabo, who's the Active Chief Executive Officer, Nuclear Power and Energy Agency, or if you like, NUPEA, all right? And can we just go through some of these areas that nuclear power or energy would sort of like help? And one of the things, and the president is really key or the same, and this is as far as agriculture is concerned and food security. So how will this impact the same?
Thank you, Winnie. I think in the area of food security, nuclear is very key.
Yeah.
As we mentioned earlier, part of the manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza government under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, BETA, food security is very important.
It's very important, yeah.
And therefore, nuclear technology comes in handy. As I mentioned to you, one of the things that NUPEA does is that it is the National Liaison Office for Technical Cooperation Activities by IEA.
Yeah.
And IEA supports the governments of the world with many issues, and one of them is the area of agriculture. For example, they will support us with technology on in areas like the technology that is used in crop irradiation to ensure that foods don't get spoiled quickly.
Okay.
And also there's a technology that is used in crops to ensure that they are drought resistant. For example, with this in Kenya, we were able to develop a wheat variety called Mavuno, which is drought resistant and also resistant to certain diseases. So that really helps. And also in livestock farming, using nuclear technology, we are able to make sure that some pests that are harmful to animals are not able to reproduce, and therefore the animals are able to grow better, and also to just have the best genes for animal husbandry. That technology is available in all those areas. Coming to the area of health, as you know, nuclear technology is used in hospitals, in X-rays and all that, and also in cancer treatment.
Yes.
Yeah. So that technology is very important, and we are saying that if we have this technology locally, we will not have our people going abroad for medical care, which is very expensive, and which also talks to the issue of pesa mfukoni for wananchi, because if you are cutting that cost of taking a flight to India or to Europe and other destinations, so for medical care, and you're able to get it here, then you're saving that money, and the money you'll go to spend on your patient will actually be in this country. And also again, that speaks to the issue of foreign exchange that Kenya Kwanza is talking about, that we have less money going out of the country and more money being actually spent here. And if we actually are able to develop our medical institutions, we'll have actually medical tourism coming to Kenya, same way that we're having people going to India and so forth. So the nuclear technology has all those immediate benefits that we can actually enjoy even as we wait for the development of the nuclear power program.
Absolutely. And I mean, like you said, in health, we're also seeing this.
Even in, I also failed to mention, in water.
Yes.
Water desalination. You know the problem of usable water at the coast. Most of the water is salty.
Salty, yeah.
With all that water in the ocean, but there's a problem with water. Nuclear technology can actually be used to desalinate that water and provide to the people. It's also used in industrial work. It can also be applied in groundwater mapping, that technology, and many other uses.
Very beneficial
Yes.
to all of us. And again, like we were saying, when we talk about health, now we're seeing this, especially with also treatments of cancers due to, for example, like radiotherapy or radiation therapy, which is highly beneficial. So yes, I hear what you're saying. If we have that locally, then, the benefits are vast. And that will, because it's usually like a ripple effect.
Yes, exactly.
It starts from here,
exactly.
go all the way. And okay, I see that. But again, so on a larger scale, one might ask, given what we're seeing now, in the country, do we have the capacity to have, the nuclear plant and to have it run? And, when we talk about the sustainability aspect of the same, do we have that capacity as a country?
Yeah, thank you, Winnie. And that's a very good question. As I mentioned earlier, when a country decides to develop a nuclear power program, it has to go through 3 important phases.
Okay.
The very first phase is to make a knowledgeable commitment to the new nuclear power program.
That's true.
And before that, you have to have considerations before that decision is made. It's actually a policy decision that is made by the executive, largely.
Yeah.
of course supported by the legislature, because they're the ones that allocate funds and all that. So once that decision is made to go nuclear, then you have to start the preparatory activities to do that.
Yeah.
And therefore, the next stage is you have to think through, how are we going to be able to deliver this project?
Execution of
Where are we going to get the money? And this is one of the work that NUPEA is actually doing, racking our heads to see how are we going to raise this substantial amount of money to be able to implement that program. And we do this by working with all the stakeholders.
Yeah.
We have to work with Parliament, we have to work with the National Treasury, we have to work with everyone. And the Kenyan people, of course, who are the taxpayers.
That's true.
We have to consult them. And we will be able to study the best mode of funding and financing this project. At this stage, I cannot tell you that it will be done this way or the other way. But off the cuff, it is very obvious that when you look at the amounts involved and the priorities of the country, it is very unlikely that the government will be able to make available these billions at a go for this particular project. Therefore, we will do a study and propose several models of funding and financing. We have several, for example, you can have a PPP, you can have also a BOT, build, operate and transfer, and all these models. Of course, once we make these proposals, we'll have to run them through the National Treasury and have the Attorney General give advice on how all these things are done before we now move on to the procurement stage. But as you say, as I mentioned to you during the break, is that it is expensive at the beginning, but in the long term, it actually pays off. Because studies show that a nuclear power program, a well-designed nuclear power program, a plant can operate for 80 years perfectly, and can, with the way you can, when you buy a car and then you can go and make it a little bit and replace some important run another 20 years. So 100 years, a nuclear power plant can serve you comfortably.
And that's really nice, because then it's like we have employment opportunities. Because right now what we're dealing with, as a country is unemployment, which is a very, very big issue for so many young people. So if we have this running for all that while, it means different people, different generations would have,
and also studies show that that plant can actually repay itself within 17 years, maximum 20 years. So for 80 years, you're going to reap now maximum benefits from it. So it's expensive at the beginning, but it's the way you can actually decide, do you want to buy a new car that will serve you for long, or you want to buy an old car that will keep on breaking. And also there are certain advantages of the nuclear power program that we cannot ignore. For instance, a nuclear power plant can actually run for 2 years non-stop. So in that period, you will have no blackouts. You will be able to plan your energy needs comfortably, and the cost of energy will certainly become affordable. And what will that mean? Is that investors from other countries will say, hey, Kenya here is a better destination because we're going to have low cost of production, and therefore we'll have more investors coming in and setting base here, and therefore again, as you say, employment will increase.
That's true, because all Kenyans, when you talk about blackouts, and we can all relate. We can absolutely relate to the same, and how expensive again the cost of energy and power has been over time. Okay, and like you said, to set up this, we also have to have the correct skill set, because human capital is adequately important. So what some of the required skill sets that is needed to make sure that there is this nuclear plant that has been set up, but we have the right people working for the same, just to ensure, like you said, sustainability of the same. We want to have it for 100 100 years and running.
Maybe I could just say that the skill sets you require are all the skill sets that are available. Because you will need engineers, you will need technologists, you will need lawyers, you will need even media people for communication, you will need HR practitioners, you will need accountants, because you know, as we're talking about funding and financing, you need accountants to be able to really advise you on all these things.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about only at the beginning. It's throughout,
yes.
the program.
Yeah.
So you will need all those things. And therefore, the skill set that you are developing is across board. We are having engineers going for international trainings and yes, we are having lawyers do that. We are having accountants do that. So we are developing the whole set. So a nuclear program is not only about engineers. It's about the whole set of it. And you will notice that even as we are doing this, we're actually doing partnerships with all the professional bodies available. We deal with engineers, we deal with engineers, IEK, engineers, Institute of Engineers of Kenya, the LSK, Law Society of Kenya, ISPAC, ICS. So we deal with all professionals and also other people, because as you may know, is that the nuclear power plant will also employ low cadre people, watu wa mkono. So also those ones will need them to have the appropriate skill sets, and therefore we're working with the TVETs to ensure that they're able to develop programs that will be able to trainings for this kind of people. So it's a whole set of things. So for currently what we are doing is that majority of this knowledge is actually being obtained outside. But as NUPEA, as we go along and as we execute the mandate of capacity building for the energy and petroleum sector, we are making proposals to have this training actually domesticated, so that we, with the right curriculum, we'll have these people actually trained there. If we need to external expert, we actually import that expertise to come and equip it here. That also will save the cost of training for our people.
Which is absolutely important. Okay, so like you said, we are on track.
Yes, we are.
2034.
2034
is the projected year of commissioning, and we can't wait for that. So what phase would you say we are at now?
Thank you, Winnie. I can confidently say that we are at phase 2, because the decision to go nuclear was made in 2010, and a lot of activities went through that. And in 2015, we had what is called the Integrated Nuclear Infrastructure Review Mission by the IEA, where they came and looked at what we have done as a country and ticked the boxes and confirmed that we had done whatever was required at that stage, and recommended for us to proceed. And we did, the INRID mission was in 2018. So we did all those activities that had been suggested to us. And in 2021, we had now what is called the INRID, the Integrated Nuclear Infrastructure Follow-up Mission. Where in the first INRID, they raised the issues that we needed to address, and gave us some time to address them, and we addressed them. And when they came for the follow-up mission, they actually confirmed that we had fulfilled all that we needed to do, and therefore Kenya is safely in phase 2. And phase 2 is now where we start the preparations for constructing of the nuclear power program. And this involves looking at all again, at every stage, by the way, you have to look at all the 19 infrastructure issues. So at this stage, again, we have all to look at the whole range of issues. The financing, the personnel, radioactive issues, everything. Because at every stage, we must address those issues and ensure that we have actually attained them before we'll be able to move to that stage. So at the end of this phase is that we will be able to actually send bids for procurement for the contractor who will actually come to work with us in building the nuclear power program.
All right.
We hope that yes, we hope that this phase can be completed by 2027. And therefore, then the other activities can start.
Because I was about to ask. So then, when do you project? The construction of the same to start. So after 2027 is what we're looking at.
Yes.
Okay. So then, how many phases would you say would have to? Because we're in the second phase.
Yes.
How many phases?
Now the final phase is actually the easiest.
Okay.
It's basically
because you
commissioning.
already said.
Yeah, so the
said
final
well.
phase is basically now inviting the president to come and commission the nuclear power plant, and we start operating and generating electricity.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
And when we talk about electricity, because I know this is something that touches every single person who's watching us this morning, and they would want to know to what extent, in terms of like quantifying, but again, we might not have like, you know, the numbers and percentages, all those things, but to what level would you say it will solve, you know, our issues when we talk about electricity? Because like you said, we can stay up to 2 years without necessarily having to deal with constant blackouts here and there. But aside from that, in terms of the cost of energy or the cost of electricity, how much would you say this will reduce even as we move forward, you know, to the future?
Nuclear will greatly reduce the cost of electricity because it's projected that we'll be able to generate electricity at 4 cents per kilowatt.
Okay.
Apart from that, we've already mentioned about nuclear being clean. Our environment,
Good for the environment,
will reduce the fossil fuels. You saw the other day the president is very interested in us having electric cars and all that. So if with nuclear technology, we'll actually be able to have enough electricity to power those cars. The SGR will have to be electric, and many other things, so that we'll reduce the dependency on fossil fuels. So we'll have a cleaner environment. We've talked about the other benefit that nuclear will actually do, because it will bring in all this employment in the country with all those spin-off effects that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Nuclear energy will also be able to support in research and development, because
yeah.
you will be having our young people from universities being interned in those nuclear power plants. If we cannot employ all of them, they will get employment elsewhere. So they will be able. They will have already learned. So it will be like a training center. And allow me to mention that apart from the nuclear power plant, there's also another project that we're engaged in. It's called the Research Reactor Project.
Okay.
We want to have a such reactor developed, and we are going to do that in Konza City. And that research reactor is for training and research, and also for producing radioisotopes that will be used in our hospitals, because we generally we import our radioactive from South Africa, which by the time they get here, you have to use them very quickly because they have a very short half-life. Yeah. Therefore, if we're able to actually produce them here, we'll be able to cut the cost and have them available instantly whenever they are required. Then beyond that, I also should mention that as we're looking at the nuclear power plant, which we're looking at 2032, there is also new technology that has emerged, which actually also informed why we are bringing the date closer.
Yeah.
We have what is called small modular reactors.
Okay.
Instead of having the big nuclear power plant, one of it at one place, you can actually do this in a phased out scenario, where you have a small modular reactor, which generates like 100 and 300 to 300 megawatts. That is smaller and easier, and also the cost is slightly lower. So that instead of going for the big thing at a go, you can have this one, and you start utilizing it. As you get enough resources, you bring another one, and you build on that way. Yeah.
One may be curious to understand how then that will be discussed, but again, I think this is something that we will
yes.
understand when we cross when we get there.
Yeah.
And you also talked about how important it is to have all the stakeholders involved, and one of the things that you mentioned could be to have the public-private partnerships, right? So in what way would you say, and especially from the private sector, they would come in and help? What are some of the areas that they would be very, very helpful to make sure that the success of the, first of all, construction and also commissioning of the plant is achieved?
Thank you, Winnie. Part of the 19 infrastructure issues is industrial involvement, and the local industries have actually to be involved.
Yeah.
And you also know that under our law, there's what we call the local content. So the private sector will be the ones to be involved in that. So the private sector must be interested in the nuclear power program, because when it starts, they should be ready to be able to support it, either by provision of materials, provision of personnel, and all that. So in that sense, there's already that aspect of private engagement. But also, we must remember that, and I like what our president keeps on saying, we are not going to be borrowers all the time.
Okay.
We
need to have
our financial institutions should start thinking about this. Our own local financial institutions start thinking about this. How can they come in and not just allow foreign capital to come and be put here, and when the profits are reaped, the capital is exported back to where it came from. So in that sense, even our financial institutions should think, even if they cannot do it on their own, think about a consortium, or think about, you know, going into a joint venture. So that is another aspect of private involvement. Another aspect is the contractor. We don't expect that a foreign contractor should come and do everything. The engineers in this country, the contractors in this country, should be able to start thinking about what is it that they can do, even if they cannot do the bigger thing. What smaller things can they do?
Can contribute,
and we ensure that at least we satisfy the local content aspect of procurement that is required in our laws.
Absolutely. And Kenyans as well, because everybody needs to be involved in the same, first of all, from understanding, awareness, to even just see how beneficial this is to us as a people. So in terms of that, having, you know, Kenyans being involved, how else would you say it is important for all of us to just be part of? Is it more of understanding how this is important, being receptive? Because you know how sometimes people can be.
I think understanding is very important. And number two, this technology is here and has been with us. So we must make a decision. Do we want to be scared of technology as it's benefiting other people until they have left us so far? Or do we want to say, this technology is here, we have questions about it, can we raise the questions? And we're actually glad as NUPEA to listen to every concern. And where we are not able, we'll actually be able to get people who can provide answers. I'll say this. I had a discussion with my permanent secretary yesterday, and we were discussing and saying that the problem with the nuclear power, the issue that people have with the nuclear power program is not that it is bad. It is because they don't understand. And what offer did he say? He told me that we can go to get people from Japan, from Fukushima, who actually had that experience, to come and allay the fears within our people that this thing is good. And you'll actually get to know, even in the US, that everyone wants a nuclear power program. But there's this saying, not in my backyard. It is because of misinformation and fear that most times is actually unfounded, or as a result of misinformation. We need to get out the right information, and we like Kenyans who have any questions to actually bring them forth. Because in the exercise that we did, we listened to every issue and we onboarded it, and we tried to provide answers. And we're not saying that we have answered all the questions. We are still open to listen to any concerns that are available and address them at an appropriate level. And until every Kenyan is satisfied, we will not move the next step until we ensure that everyone is on the same wavelength
comfortable with the same. All right, we literally have like around 4 minutes to end the conversation. And maybe someone is joining in late and trying to understand, okay, nuclear power, what is happening? Kenya is set to commission it in 2034. There are several phases, several things that have to be put in place just to make sure that this project is not only successful, but also safe for the people and for the environment, but also solves a myriad of issues that we have in the country. Because again, like we said, food security is one of the things that we're dealing with, health as well. When we talk about medicine, I mean, and you know, tourism as well, medical tourism. We do not want all those things to happen. We want them to have you know, to be available here
Home,
in the country. So what is it that you want people to walk out of this conversation, even as they go throughout their day, with a better understanding? What is it that you'd want Kenyans to really, really understand in terms of nuclear power and energy, and how this works and how it will solve all our issues?
Thank you, Winnie. I think what I would say is that our government has made a decision to consider nuclear as a source of energy.
Okay.
And that's a very good idea. But the government is also alive to the fact that there are concerns that the citizenry will have about the program.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's created NUPEA with a mandate to develop the infrastructure. And that development of infrastructure involves, among other things, educating Kenyans about the nuclear power program, letting them know the benefits of the program and also the concerns of the program and how those concerns will be addressed. And nuclear is actually the future, as we've discussed.
Said earlier here.
Many developed countries have used nuclear technology to advance. We have countries that actually, like France, which depends on like 75% of their energy sources from nuclear. And you can see how they're developing. America is also depending to a large extent on nuclear technology.
Yeah.
Russia and China and many other countries. In Africa, we already talked about South Africa.
South Africa, yeah.
But we're also saying that beyond the generation of electricity from nuclear, nuclear technology is available for use and has been used in many other areas. And we need to enhance the exploitation of that technology for the betterment of our people in the area of food security, agriculture, medical, water desalination, and all these other spheres of life, so that we can improve the quality of life for our people.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I like that. All right. And of course, that is a very good way to end the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. But again, like he said, we will still have so many questions, you know, from the people. And it's important to ask those questions because this is something that will impact us as a people, as a nation. And we want to grow our economy. We want to grow in different areas. So ask all those questions. And of course, NUPEA is here to answer all your questions. And you can do that via our social media handles at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter. We'll forward them to NUPEA.
Yes.
Who will answer all your concerns. But for now, allow us to say goodbye. Mr. Justus Wabuyabo, who's the Acting Chief Executive Officer from the Nuclear Power and Energy Agency, or if you like, NUPEA. So thank you so much for coming by today.
Thank you for
and helping us really understand what nuclear energy is all about. And we look forward to 2034 when we'll be commissioning the same. But enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you tomorrow morning, same time, same place, right here on your world. But until then, stay safe and God bless. See you soon.